over the course of my life, 55 years, Wall Street really has been the commonly recognized measure of economic health. Like, how's the Dow doing? We've got entire TV channels devoted to tracking its progress, which has mostly been up during the course of my life. So if the average of, the equity averages fall, if the stock market falls, that's seen by a lot of people as like a measure that the economy itself is in decline. Do you think that's a fair measure?
Look, the market goes up and down. Warren Buffett has a saying, in the short run, the market's a voting machine. In the long run, it's a weighing machine. And in the long run, it's going to weigh, do we have good policies?
Yes.
And I in my former business, I commented on market structure, market ups and downs a lot. I'm trying not to do that.
Yes.
But for everyone who thinks that these market declines are all based on the president's economic policies, I can tell you that this market decline started with the Chinese AI announcement of DeepSeek.
Right.
So the so-called Mag 7, the tech stocks, had been doing very well for about 18 months, led the market. And I think that there was kind of a real dose of reality in what was going on in AI. And I think U.S. is going to remain the leader in AI, but the AI-related stocks started coming down. So, like, if I were to analyze in my old hat, and this is the only time I'm going to talk about it, my old hat, what's happening with the market, I'd say it's more a Mag 7 problem and not a MAGA problem.
Right. So it's a deeper, so actually the markets are, you're saying in this specific case with tech stocks, are taking like a real measure of the value of companies relative to foreign companies.
Well, it's that. But if we look, with the equal weighted S&P, even after today's moves, down 4% in the year. Or, in a long-term chart, you wouldn't even notice that.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing that we can do, that I can do as the Treasury Secretary, that President Trump wants to do, is put in sound fundamentals for the underlying economy. And if the underlying economy is good, if taxes are stable, if businesses have predictability, if we have cheap and plentiful energy, if we deregulate, if we treat our workforce well, then we're going to have a great stock market.
Fair. The president has suggested in describing his plan for tariffs, he said, look, you could conceivably fund a lot of government with tariffs. And that would suggest that taxpayers fund less of the burden. And so do you expect that these will be accompanied by a congressionally approved tax cut for the middle class?
I just want to go back for a moment too, that one of the things that the tariffs are doing is we are pushing back against other economic systems. So the Chinese have a very different economic system. They have low cost, some would call it literally slave labor. They subsidize industry with subsidized loans. They have a lot of non-tariff barriers. Your show can't be shown there.
Yes.
So we're pushing back against that. And with the tariff income, it can be substantial. And if we think like a classical model of tariff income would say, if there's a 10% tariff, then the currency would appreciate about 40% of that, so 4% of it. Then the producer in the other country would eat about 4%. And then the U.S. consumer might have a one-time price adjustment of 2%. So, in a 10% tariff, maybe the consumer pays 2% of it. We saw there's a study out recently from a group at MIT that shows that with President Trump's first China tariffs, which were approximately 20%, the price level went up 0.7. So to answer your question, if we could put on a 20% tariff and have the foreigners pay that and use that money to bring down our government deficit and keep taxes low here, that's a very unique formula that hasn't been tried in this country for a long time.
Here's a fact of life you may not learn until you're older, but I'm going to tell you now. It's very hard to have a good time if you're wearing bad boots. In fact, it may be impossible, and that's why you need Tecovas. As a matter of fact, you don't just need them, you owe them to yourself. Tecovas makes Western boots for everybody, ranchers, real ranchers, lifelong cowboys, first-time boot buyers, and anyone in between. Every Tecovas boot is handcrafted, made by hand, with over 200 meticulous steps for a broken-in feel right out of the box. You don't have to compromise between looks and quality. You can have them both. Whether it's a long day or a big night, Tecovas are built to last and impressed. You wouldn't believe the compliments people here get when they wear them out, which they do. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/Tucker when you sign up for email and text alerts. That's 10% off at Tecova, TECOVAS.com/Tucker.
And do you think, but it would require congressional participation to get there, to move tax rates, of course, are set by the Congress. So,
Well, what we're going to have now, we are in this very odd, what I would call betwixt and between the tariff income and what DOGE is doing in terms of the cutting government expenses. So CBO scoring, and for 35 years, I was on the other side of the wall, and I would always, CBO says this. And I didn't really realize that kind of CBO scoring is a lot like Enron accounting, that it's not real. And when you actually look at the real
but
scoring,
you assumed it was on the outside?
sure. Well, they're experts.
It's a congressional budget office.
It's a congressional budget office, and they're well-intentioned people. They just have the nonsensical rules. Think about this: when all the scoring's done over a 10-year window.
Yes.
Okay? So they just assume 1.7 or 1.8% economic growth over the 10 years, and that never moves. Whether you raise taxes or cut taxes, doesn't move. So that's what, during the campaign, when Vice President Harris was announcing all these big tax increases she wanted to do and things like that, that the CBO was scoring her very well. And President Trump wants to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. That was kind of a blowout number, because obviously growth's going to go up a lot when you cut taxes. So, but that was a long way of saying we will not get credit for the tariffs in any bill, because Congress is not going to legislate it. President's doing it with executive authority, but the money will be coming in. We've already taken in several $100 million on the China tariffs from his first term. We take in about $35 billion a year just on the old tariffs, not on the new ones. So in the CBO window, that's about $350 billion, which pays for a lot of the president's promises on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, making interest deductibility on autos made in the U.S. And think what the president's doing here. He is backing into an affordability solution for the bottom 50% of wage earners, because they're the ones who will benefit from all four of those programs.
So looking out, say, a year from now, so beginning of next April, do you have any sense of how much the U.S. government anticipates bringing in from the tariffs announced yesterday?
It's going to be a moving target.
For sure.
But could it be anywhere from $300 billion to $600 billion a year? Sure.
Okay, so that's meaningful revenue.
Very meaningful. But what will happen with tariffs over time, the ultimate goal of the tariffs, and the president says it all the time, bring your factory here. That's the best solution toward getting away from a tariff wall. So move your factory from China, from Mexico, from Vietnam, bring it here. So what will happen over time, we'll have substantial tariff income in the beginning. Manufacturers will build their factory here. The tariffs will drop, but the revenue from the factories, from income taxes, from all the new jobs will go up. So we'll be taking it in domestically as the tariffs drop. And why are the tariffs dropping? Because we're making it here and our trade deficit's dropping.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there. and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.